12:23, 23 minutes after the high noon. We are in our PM edition of the radio program. We're having a conversation here about radio being live, and I feel my feeling that it's more honest, it's more sincere, but it might not be a better production and a better presentation, and I get that. So you're always stuck between how do you create something authentic versus something that communicates well, and sometimes those two things live in contrast with one another.
Sure.
Sometimes they live in a little bit of tension. And as a religious professional and someone who puts on religious happenings, church services and speaking engagements and writing books and all that kind of stuff, I feel this tension. And I think that for those of us in the religion world, either as participants in it or providers of it, we have to ask this question. And I think that if as pastors and teachers and rabbis and religious leaders, if what we're doing is putting together too professionalized and too much production. Too
slick, too glossy.
Too slick, yeah. That essentially what you can do in radio is take out all the ums and ahs, make all the questions sort of sound perfect and they sort of flow. Works really well for people to sort of get what you're saying because you're not lost in the ums and ahs and people knocking on the doors and people walking around. But maybe what you're doing is also creating the mentality for people that that's how it's supposed to be in your life.
So you're saying like the church person could slick things up and perfect things to the point where it's really a misrepresentation of what real life is really like.
Yeah. So that the parishioner, so that the person who attends the church thinks, man, I go there and those people, it all makes sense. The pastor says things, it leads right into a song and it comes right out of this. And the person gets up and tells their story and it was so good. My life seems to be a rambling mess. My life seems to be that I say the wrong words sometimes. My life seems to be that it's just a little more clumsy than all of that.
Well, even to the point where like the pastor looks all nice and perfect in how he looks, and his wife is all prim and proper and dressed well, and their kids are all nice little,
everything is
little clones, and then but compared to them, my life is a shambles with my relationship with my wife or whatever.
Yeah, and so then you get this idea. So there is actually something that goes wrong when you produce your religious expressions, and I think even when you produce the news or conversations or radio programs too much, you end up telling people that's what's expected of you.
Can I say one more thing?
It's like airbrushing someone on the cover of a magazine or doing too much touch-up work in iPhoto.
It begins to look fake.
It begins to not be real.
Yeah.
It actually isn't how it is. And if that was just the delivery of information, great. But the way we're socialized as human beings in the world is to take normative clues off of what we see around us to help us develop a set of expectations.
Yeah.
So yes, you could say something else.
Well, I was thinking about how often even the spirituality of the pastor or those in leadership, it looks very altogether and complete. And that's what's kind of presented to the congregation.
Yeah.
But you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, and those kind of arguments with the spouse, or you've got a kid who's kind of gone off the rails. Those things aren't publicly known, so people really don't know what's happening.
Now, in this company called Social Phonics, which you can find at socialphonics.com, we do these training for pastors and church leaders and nonprofits on using social media. And this is one of the big questions that comes up quite often for people is, how do you live as a pastor who's supposed to be sort of separate from the people, like the resident religious holy person, if they know all your stuff?
Oh, right.
How do you kind of keep those worlds distinct and separate from one another? And so we're having that conversation a lot. And so it comes up in the regular way that we live our lives. If every presentation of Christianity we hear is well put together, well crafted, ums and ahs taken out, all of the fringy edges smoothed over, everything sort of buttoned up, that can be a really good, clear, like when I read a book, frankly, I don't want to read a book with a bunch of spelling errors in it, right? And I've published books that have had you don't want that, and you don't want run-on sentences, and you don't want someone to stop in the middle. But when I looked at this album that written by the house band back in 1978, Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band, I got the box set, and it came with the book that he used, the spiral bound notebook, where he wrote all the verses for this long album, and you see all the attempts at trying to make a song out of that. That actually makes the album so much better. So even though I don't want a book or an album to be just all broken up, I do want to know that the background of that is real as to how it was put together, that someone didn't just sit down, write one take on it, and that was that. And so I think that this conversation about, do you do live radio radio, or do you do the produced, This American Life and back interviews and all that kind of stuff? So when we do interviews here, and even on the occasion where I have to interview someone during the week, I try not to edit those other than if I have to do it for time.
Yeah.
I don't fix any of it. I don't clean any of it up. I think if we can take it as it is, that we're going to be more encouraged to have a real and gritty faith. It was going to be much better for us than having a faith that is packaged and clean and well crafted.
Well, even for the show, nothing is really scripted. I mean, we have an outline of, we know what's going on, but none of this is like written down in prose that we're reading.
And we're not
except when I hosted it, I did that.
Yeah, and we're not picking out topics ahead of time to say, let's drive this agenda. We're going to talk about what's going on in the time that it's going on. Yeah. And so people are invited into a real expression of that. And I hope that people have a taste of that in religion as well. So if you've only ever tasted of religion that's been polished up and prepackaged and put together in ways where it's all buttoned up and tightened down and locked in, there's a whole other thing going on out there, and we'd invite you all into that as well. We're going to be joined by the natural health coach, Shelley Pagitt, who, does this the same way. She'll come in here and we'll have some fun with that. So she'll be in here and we'll talk about the natural health world. But we want to encourage you to have a kind of expression in your life that is full of the freedom of what life is really like in your faith, and not just one that's all packaged together. Ums and ahs taken out. But I will say, we do a pretty good job around here with a lot of the ums and ahs.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, you don't have to be clumsy about it. You don't have to trip down the stairs on purpose.
Right.
And we'll be back here with the natural health coach after the break.
The Land Stewardship Project and AM 950 invite you to a free screening of the documentary Troubled Waters, a Mississippi River story, on Wednesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. at St. Anthony Main Theater in Minneapolis. This is the movie that Karen Himmel, the vice president in charge of PR at the University of Minnesota, didn't want you to see. Himmel attempted to censor the film because it could offend corporate ag interests. In the face of public outcry, the film has been released. The Mississippi River flows through the heart of America and through some of our country's most productive farmland. This film tells the story of the unintended yet severe environmental consequences of farming along the river and some of the efforts being taken to reverse this damage. Following the movie is a discussion led by the Land Stewardship Project on the influence of corporate agribusiness at the university and what we need from our university to advance stewardship in our food and farming system. To ensure your seat, register online at www.landstewardshipproject.org or by calling 612-722-6377.
Take your shirt off.
I'll just take my jacket off. I've got 4 shirts.
Mike Malloy.
Company that owns Fox News Corporation, showed its friendliness toward the Republicans by giving $1 million to the Republican Governors Association. In an example of the sort of sarcasm one is allowed when one makes such a donation, a company spokesman said, News Corporation believes in the power of free markets, and the RGA's pro-business agenda supports our priorities.
Weekday evenings 8 to 11 on AM 950 KTNF, the voice of Minnesota.
Hi, this is Matt McNeil. I'm proud to announce that AM 950 is now available anywhere in the world from your portable device with our new AM 950 app. The AM 950 application is compatible with the iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, and Droid. Stream Ed Schultz, Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, and even Nancy Nelson and me, Matt McNeil, instantly with the new AM 950 app. It also lets you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, stay updated on the latest AM 950 events, and look up schedules and call-in numbers. Go to am950radio.com to download your free AM 950 app today.
Hi, this is Nancy Nelson. I'd like to talk to you about Advanced Biomedical Technologies, ABT, using highly sophisticated medical instrumentation approved by the FDA. They relieve pain without needles, without surgery, without drugs. I had fallen down the steps and tore something in my knee. The advice was drain the fluid, perhaps surgery. I could barely walk. I called ABT. After the first treatment, all the fluid was off my knee and I could walk almost normally again. And after the fourth treatment, my knee was completely pain-free and back to normal. It really was amazing. ABT can relieve new and chronic pain and injuries. Legs, knees, elbows, carpal tunnel, neck, back, migraine, headaches. If you suffer with pain, I'd like to suggest you give ABT a call. See if they can help you. 1-800-777-7170. 1-800-777-7170. You have nothing to lose but your pain.
Time for a look at AM 950 weather, brought to you by Eat Local Minnesota. Sunny today, some melting with a high of 42. Cloudy tonight, low 36. Tomorrow, cloudy with a chance of rain and a high near 40. Snow likely Monday night late into Tuesday, then cooler and blustery. Tuesday's high 24, and in the mid-20s Wednesday and Thursday. Minnesota's truly independent restaurants featuring high-quality food, unique eating experiences, and original dishes located right in your neighborhood. Remember, gift cards make great gifts. Find out more at eatlocalminnesota.com.
You know I love